Hey, puppy people, Jude the Puppy Nanny here. You know, if you've been following a little bit, you know that I am in the thinking mode, thinking and planning mode about getting a new puppy. And so I thought, wow, I want to have my Latte and my puppy too, and I bet you do as well. Sounds like an odd title, but you know, the thing about it is that puppies are expensive. And interestingly, nobody wants to even think about, certainly not talk about, the money involved when you're getting a puppy. So I thought, okay, I need to think about it because for a variety of reasons. I'm retired. My income is not entirely fixed, but it's not very high. So I need to make sure that I'm going to get a puppy and that I'm going to be able to afford to keep it. And I thought to myself, I bet you there are lots of people who are in the same boat. So that's what we're going to do. We're just going to talk money today, a little bit about the things you need to consider. And the first thing is the cost of the puppy. The second, not necessarily in this order, is veterinary expense, equipment that you'll need for your puppy, food, toys, and the training that will be required, pet insurance, whether to buy it or not, and the unexpected. So the first thing, the cost of the puppy, I can tell you that you will certainly pay no less than $500 if you're buying from a reputable breeder. And depending on the kind of puppy you're buying, that can be much, much higher than $500. And even if you adopt from a shelter or from a rescue, there will be adoption costs associated. And it's possible, so something to consider, that you will be getting your puppy from a breeder who is not within driving distance, and so you will have to pay transportation costs to fly the puppy to you. Just something to consider. And then, of course, there are the veterinary expenses. Many breeders require an initial visit to the vet within 7 to 10 days just to ensure that the puppy that they ship to you is as healthy when it arrives as it was when it left them. Then there's the whole protocol of vaccinations. And I do suggest that you Google vaccinations and give it some thought as to how much you're going to vaccinate, what you're going to vaccinate against, and so on. And then if you decide to do blood titering instead of vaccinations, that doesn't come free either. And again, that's something that you would want to do some research on and see where you sit on that decision. And then the cost of altering, because we certainly want to spay and neuter our female and our male dogs so that we don't add to the population. In fact, I think a lot of breeders insist that you do that. That the cost of that varies depending on where you are. And of course, you will want to have regular health checks throughout your puppy's and then your dog's life. There's the equipment involved. There's a crate, well, maybe several, especially if you start with the one here in the picture, because you're going to have a big dog. Now you can get crates that are dividable, and so you can make it smaller to begin with, and then you can move the divider and make it big enough for your full-size dog. And certainly in the first year you're going to need several collars. They grow so quickly that you go through collars. We certainly don't wear them out, so a good thing to borrow or get from a friend if you can. A harness you will want, I hope, but maybe not right away, because again you'll need several of them. A leash, and I've shown just some of the pretty color ones. Of course, leashes come in leather as well, but I like the colors. A dog bed of some sort. And you might possibly want to get I think they're usually a metal divider to put in your car to keep the dog in the back. Now, the picture here, which is a kind of not very good, but if you look at it sort of carefully, you can see that it is a cover that covers the back seat and across the well in the back seat and attaches to the front seat. So it's kind of like a back seat hammock. It's been the best money I have spent in a long time. I loved it, especially as Jack was getting old, and he sometimes would get himself disoriented, or if I came to a stop sign and stopped, he would fall into the well. So this was perfect. And the other thing that I haven't shown a picture of is a long line, a 20, 30, or 50-foot braided nylon line that is just so good for training recalls in an unfenced area. Oh, so can you hear the cha-ching, cha-ching yet? The dollars don't take long to add up, I'll tell you. And then there's food and treats. So you have to decide whether you're going to have kibble, canned food, frozen food, raw food. Perhaps you're going to do it yourself, which means that you will be still having to buy the basic ingredients, and maybe you're going to use a combination of all of the above. Certainly you will need treats for training. And they can be homemade, of course, but it doesn't matter whether they're homemade. Everything costs. That you can reduce the cost by making them yourself. And you know, we continue to give our dogs treats throughout their lifetime just because they're good dogs. We like to do that. Now we come to the subject of toys. And for puppies, initially you need stuffable chew toys to get them hooked on the chewing habit and get them hooked on the right thing. Tug toys you need, and you may or may not need frisbees because not all dogs are frisbee dogs. I think you can train all dogs to be frisbee dogs, so that's up to you. And then there are stuffed toys, squeaky toys, and puzzle toys. You may need some of those or all of them, depending again on your dog's personality and what she likes to play with. I recommend raw bones that start off as being tooth cleaners, and then they can be restuffed with kibble, and they make a great chew toy as well. And if you have a ball-focused dog, you will need balls in the plural, many of them. In the picture on the right-hand side, the long orange thing with a handle is called a chucket, and it will throw the ball a long, long distance, and is fabulous for people like me who can't throw very far. But you know, every one of those toys, I would say that every one of those toys runs between $5 and $10. So you know, there's some more dollars, and now, because you've just started with a puppy, you might, especially if it's your first puppy, or you haven't had a puppy for a very long time, or you have a family and you want everybody, especially the kids, to learn the way you want to train the dog, you might want to hire an in-home puppy trainer. And if you want an in-home puppy trainer, pick me. That's a Shrek line. Well, it's Donkey, you know that. And if I'm not here, or you're not here on the Sunshine Coast of British Columbia, where I live, we can set it up and do it via Skype, which will work too. Then you'll need dollars for puppy classes. Now, if you decide you're going to do the whole thing yourself, you're going to need guidance. And I strongly suggest that you watch some videos on YouTube. People like Zach George. Check out Ian Dunbar's work. There are a lot of good ones, and the only criteria you need to have, the only criterion you need to have, really, is that the trainer that you are following or learning from is one who works with positive reinforcement, not the jerk and the splat and the domination and all of that. It's not necessary, and it's very old school. Now, if you need some guidance from me, the Puppy Nanny, you can buy my book. And there's a picture of it right there. And you can buy it at judethepuppynanny.com. It has all kinds of how-tos and training tips in it. Easy to follow, I might add. And then there's more classes, and they're really, really useful. I strongly recommend classes. Sometimes they're for obedience and socialization, and then as your puppy gets older, it could be things like agility or herding or nose work, all kinds of things to make sure that your dog has a quality of life. And you know what? You meet some really neat people at those places too. Then, this wasn't always around, and I won't pretend to know a huge amount about it, because when I had pets, I think when I got Jack and subsequently Gus. I don't know if there was pet insurance around, but in any event, I'm pretty much convinced that I'm going to go that route when I get my new puppy. You will want to consider the breed you have chosen in making the decision about pet insurance, because it depends on so many factors, not to mention your own preference. And the other thing is, I would Google several pet insurance providers, check out what they offer versus what's excluded, see what's the best bang for your buck, and read that information very carefully. I say read the policy, but in fact, get all the information you can before you ever buy one. And when you get it, then do read the policy, because there's no such thing as an all-inclusive policy. There's always situations that are excluded, and there will be a deductible. So after you've done your homework on this one, then you need to weigh the risk. What are the chances that such and such is going to happen? And if it does, and it's covered in the policy, do you want to pay it out of your pocket, or do you want to pay the premiums on the off chance that it happens and then have the insurer pay it? I think a lot of homework around this one is needed to make sure that you get what is needed for you. And then, this is the thing you can expect, the unexpected. It'll happen. It always does. So we will call it the expected unexpected. Can't say what it'll be, but I can tell you one thing: it will most likely involve dollars. Don't even want to talk about the things that it could be, but there's always the unexpected, because life's. That's just the way it is. So it does pay to plan ahead, to at least think about the costs involved in having a puppy that will grow into a dog, that you will have for 10 plus years. And I would think that you want to keep this puppy. So because life is uncertain and we really never know what's going to happen with our jobs or our careers, then you don't want to sort of get down to the fact that, well, you've got to give up stuff just so you can keep your dog. I said you can have your latte. Well, I would certainly give up a lot of lattes to keep my dog, I can tell you. So it is a good idea to think carefully about the dollars involved, not to be deterred by it. I think if when you add a new family member, there's always an expense involved. But I can tell you, when I think about getting a puppy, yes, I'm going to consider the dollars. I must. But the thing that I will think about most often is the joy and the love and the fun that comes with having a puppy. I'm not quite ready for a new puppy. In fact, I figure I'm about a year out. And one of the reasons I'm a year out is because I have decided that to give myself a little cushion, that once I have tucked away $1,000 more than the cost of the puppy that I decide on, then I'll be ready to get one. And so in the meantime, while I think and plan and take all these considerations and look around and decide what I need to do, I'm going to be sharing them with you in the hope that if you're in the same boat as I am, it will be helpful to you. And if perhaps you know someone else who is in the thinking about getting a puppy stage, that you can share it with them as well. And while I think about it, I always think about the fun I'm going to have when I get a new puppy. So that's it for this time.